भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. I welcome all the devotees for today's Gita Pravaha session. So far, we discussed the seventh chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Today, we'll begin the eighth chapter. At the end of the seventh chapter, Ar- Krishna spoke a few technical words, and Arjuna had some questions about these words that Krishna spoke. At the end of seventh chapter, Krishna said, Jara Marana Mokshaya Mamashritya Yatantiye Te Brahma Tad Viduh Krishnam Adhyatmam Karma Chakhilam. Like that, Krishna spoke some terms: Brahma, Adhyatmam, Karma, Adhibhuta, Adhidaivam, Adhiyagnam, Prayanakale. So, like that, he introduced some few terms. So, Arjuna asks for clarification. Krishna, what do you mean by these terms? Kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama adhibhutam cha kim proktam adhidaivam kimuchyate अधियज्ञः कथं कोत्र देहेऽस्मिन् मधुसूदन प्रयाणकाले च कथं ज्ञेयोऽसि नियतात्मभिः. So, in the beginning of the eighth chapter, right in the first two shlokas, Arjuna asks Krishna these two questions. Very, uh, very important questions that form a basis for the entire chapter. Basically, he asks 8 questions. Out of these 8 questions, 7 questions are answered by Krishna in short, in just one word or one phrase. But the eighth question, he answers throughout the chapter. And what is the eighth question? How to attain Krishna? What are the ways of reaching Krishna? So let's see these 7 questions in brief and eighth question elaborately. So he says, Kim tad Brahma? Oh, my dear Krishna, what do you mean by Brahma? Kim Adhyatman? What do you mean by Adhyatma? Kim Karma Purushottama? What do you mean by Karma? What is Adhibhutam? What is Adhidhaivam? What is Adhiyagna? And where is Adhiyagna situated in the Deha? Deha means body. And Prayana Kale, how do we remember you at the time of death? So these are the questions of Arjuna. Now Krishna answers these questions. Aksharam paramam brahma स्वभावोध्यात्ममुच्यते भूतभावोद्भवकरो विसर्गः कर्मसंज्ञितः. Krishna says Brahma means Aksharam Paramam Brahma means the soul who is never fallible. Sometimes souls fall in this material world, but the soul never loses its Sachidananda qualities. So that spiritual soul, the soul never loses its spiritual nature. That spirit soul is Brahma. Then Adhyatmam uh, refers to the nature acquired by the soul by living in this world. Karma refers to the kind of activities that the soul has done in this world and the kind of fruitive baggage that the soul has acquired by doing so many actions in this world. That is karma. Adhibhutam, fourth term, refers to this universe and all the gross elements in this universe. Adhidaivam refers to the Lord. Adhidaivam refers to the different kinds of controllers of this universe. Right? There is this Vishwarupa, gigantic form of the Lord, universal form of the Lord that constitutes all the Devatas. So the aggregate of all these Devatas is Adhidaivam. Then Adhiyagna. Are you able to see the screen? Is any problem? Adhiyagna. refers to the super soul, the super soul or Paramatma. And where does the super soul stay? Dehesmin, in this body, in the heart, super soul stays, right? So these are some one line or one phrase definitions of the technical terms that Krishna used at the end of 7th chapter. Now the main theme for the 8th chapter is this last one, 8th question, Prayana Kale. Prayana Kale means at the time of death, how can one remember the Lord and attain Him? Hmm? So let's begin. Now our actual discussion begins from here. Krishna says, Antakale cha mameva smaranmuktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayah. Antakale cha mameva. At the time of death, mameva, only me. Smaran, if someone remembers only me, muktva kalevaram, and gives up this body, यह प्रयाति samadbhavam yati nastyatra samsayah. So, at the time of death, if someone remembers Krishna, they will definitely attain Krishna. They will give up this material body and material world. They will enter this spiritual world. They will reunite with Krishna. That is the power of remembering Krishna at the time of death or prayana kala. Clear? So now Krishna said that if you remember me at the time of death, you will reach me. What if somebody remembers something else or someone else other than Krishna? If they don't remember Krishna, if they remember something else or someone else, what is their destination? Krishna says you will attain that kind of destination where your thoughts are dwelling at the time of death. In the next shloka, Krishna says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitaha. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. Whatever you remember at the time of death, you will attain that state of existence, that state of consciousness after death. For example, there are so many devotees like Dadhichi and Vritrasur and many other great personalities, Parikshit Maharaj. They remembered Krishna at the time of death when they were leaving this body. They remembered Krishna and they attained Krishna. So, depending on their mood, some entered Vaikuntha, some entered Goloka, some entered the eternal Ayodhya Dham. Different devotees entered different planetary systems in the spiritual world, different lokas in the spiritual world. However, we need to understand that if somebody does not have the opportunity or inclination to remember Krishna and they remember something else, they will definitely attain that state of existence. Like Bharat Maharaj, he remembered a deer at the time of death. In his next life, he got a deer body. Puranjan, he was so attached to his wife, Puranjani. Because he was attached to his wife, a woman, he attained the body of a woman in the next life. So we see that there is something called the law of the last thought. Law of the last thought. What is your last thought at the time of leaving the body? Like somebody, uh, I don't know, in the current education system, there are final exams, something like that. But when we were studying in schools and colleges, at the end of the year, there used to be final exams. Hmm. During the academic year, there are some unit tests and assignments and some little mini projects and some quarterly exams, half yearly exams. But there is final exam that decides someone's entrance into the next grade. So, in the final exam, if somebody doesn't perform well, then they will not be promoted to the next grade. So, similarly, death is like an examination, entire life is like a preparation. Throughout the life, if we have not practiced bhakti, naturally at the end of one's life, at the time of leaving the body, one may not be able to remember the Lord. We have seen the example of Ajamil. When Yamadutas came to take him to hell, Ajamil said Narayana, 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 Narayana. He was remembering his son, whose name is Narayana. But the original Lord Narayana in the Vaikuntha thought that, oh, somebody is calling out my name in deep anxiety and fear. So let me respond to that call, and he had sent 4 Vishnudutas. Seeing this, people may think that, oh, Ajamil performed so many sinful activities throughout one's life, throughout his life. At the end of life, he just remembered Narayana and he went to Vaikuntha. So it's good thing. I can do whatever I want throughout my life. At the end of life, I'll just say Narayana or say Krishna and go to Krishna Loka. It doesn't work like that. Ajamil never went to Vaikuntha after he was released from the ropes of Yamudutas. He was only given a second chance. So the Vishnudutas came and cut the ropes of Ajamil, ropes of Yamadutas, and saved Ajamil. And Ajamil then went to Haridwar, and for 12 years he performed sincere bhakti, Sravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, etc. And then he went to the spiritual world after 12 years. So, uh, definitely what you remember at the time of death, you will attain it. But what you remember at the time of death depends on what you have done throughout the life. Therefore, Krishna says in the next shloka, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhyacha mayyarpitamano buddher mame vaishyasya samshayah. Tasmat means therefore. Why this therefore is coming? Basically, in the previous 2 shlokas, Krishna made 2 points. If you remember me at the time of death, you will reach me after death. In the sixth shloka, he made another point. If you remember something else at the time of death, you will attain that something else, that state of existence. Therefore, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, at all times. Sarveshu means at all, kaleshu means times. Mam anusmara, remember me. Now somebody may say, at all times I should just remember Krishna. I don't have to do anything else in life. No, Krishna says, yudhyacha, and perform your duty of your war also. Many times people think that practicing spiritual life means leaving everything else and just focusing only on Krishna, focusing only on remembering the Lord and doing some spiritual practices, doing Sravanam Kirtanam. That's great. However, as long as we are in this material world, we need to act according to the expectations of people around us. We need to conform to the norms in which the mainstream society functions. We cannot become prematurely transcendental. As long as we are in this material world, we in this material body, we have to follow certain protocols. Mm. Means we are expected to feed this body. We are expected to bathe this body, maintain this body, give medicines to this body when the body is sick, and also be polite with people around us. So there is a responsibility, there is a commitment to this material world also, right? As long as we are in this material world. But we can do all those things in a more Krishna conscious way, in a more spiritual way. So Krishna says, Arjuna, you are a warrior, you are a Kshatriya, and your duty is to perform Yuddha. So, to reach me, you can remember me, fine, but that does not mean you ignore your Yuddha. You should perform your duty also. So, in the name of remembering the Lord, in the name of just be absorbed in Krishna Smaranam, you can't ignore your duties. So, Mamanusmara and Yudhyacha, Krishna put both the things in the same shloka, in the same line also. You always remember me and also perform your Yuddha. Mayyarpitama no buddher, you offer your mind, buddhi, intelligence to me. Then Mame Vaishyasi Asamshayaha, you will definitely reach me without any doubt. Got it? So Krishna is saying 3 things here. One is offer your mind to me, mana. Second is offer your buddhi to me, intelligence. Third, offer your body to me also. Yuddha means he has to perform this, he has to participate in this battle by engaging his active senses in fighting. Thus, body, mind, intelligence all must be used in Krishna's service. Right? Mahamanusmara, you should remember. Now, the question is Krishna made a very important statement in the first line Sarveshu Kaleshu. He says at all times. Krishna is not saying, you just remember me and then fight in the war. He says, remember me at all times. Sarveshu kaleshu mamam smar. If you are always remembering Krishna, how can you fight? Where is time to fight? 24/7 you only have to remember Krishna. Where is the possibility of fighting if you are remembering Krishna? For example, Arjuna picks up his arrow and tries to target it against Drona or Bhishma or Duryodhan or Shakuni or somebody, Jayadratha. Uh, at the time he remembers Krishna, and he, uh, like when you are having some other thought in the mind while doing an activity, you may not be able to focus on that activity properly, isn't it? So he may direct that arrow towards Bhima or the Yudhishthir Maharaj or Krishna himself, and later somebody asks him, "Hey, what are you doing?" "Oh, I'm sorry, I was remembering Krishna and somehow I could not keep focus on showering arrows on my enemies. I am throwing arrows on my friends only, uh, on my party only." Sometimes when you're doing some service to the Lord, you have to give complete and exclusive attention to that service. At that time, you may not be able to remember Krishna specifically, isn't it? Like you're cooking something for the Lord. If you are thinking of something else, for example, you're thinking about the Lord only, thinking of some pastime of the Lord, thinking of some Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila of the Lord while cooking for Him, uh, then you will not be able to give the necessary attention that the cooking requires, and you may mess up the recipe, and what comes out is not something edible, right? Then you are doing disservice. So, Krishna clearly said, Yudhyacha Mayarpita Manobuddhir. So, being Krishna conscious is not just thinking of Krishna only. It is not just using only your mind to think of Krishna. You should use your senses in Krishna's service. You should use your intelligence in Krishna's service. You should use your words in Krishna's service. So, Krishna consciousness includes engaging all the faculties that you have in Krishna's service. And so, when you are doing it, sometimes you may not be able to exactly remember Krishna when you are doing an activity. You have to do justice to that service of cooking properly. But because you are doing it for Krishna, although you may not be actively remembering Krishna at that moment of cooking, because you are doing it for Krishna, that is also Krishna consciousness. Arjuna may not be chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare while throwing an arrow, probably. But he is focused on throwing that arrow. He is focused on killing the enemies. He is focused on establishing dharma for Krishna. So that's a Krishna conscious activity, although at that moment there is no exact remembrance. But let me tell you, pure devotees can do both simultaneously. Practicing devotees may not be able to do it. Practicing devotees may not be able to remember the Lord while doing a specific service that requires their attention. They may be a little carried away by the heat of the moment. They may be carried away by the necessity of the time, and they have to do that service, keep full attention to that service. They may not actively remember Krishna, Krishna, Krishna while doing some activity. Fine, no problem. But pure devotees can do. They can merge that remembrance of Krishna with their activity, and they don't compromise on the quality of that activity. How? I don't know. Because I'm not yet on that level. Yashoda Mata is churning butter for Krishna. But she was remembering Krishna. Her body, mind, and words are completely engaged in Krishna's service, and she is not compromising on the quality of her service. Like Yashodamata, Kshaumam Vasaha Pritukatate Bibhrati Sutranadham Putra Sneha Snuta Kuchayugam Jatakam Pamcha Subhru. So she was engaging her body in churning butter for Krishna. She was engaging her mind in remembering Krishna. Yashodamata was engaging her words, power of speech, in singing songs about Krishna. Thus, her body, mind, and words all are engaged in Krishna's service, and there is no compromise in the quality of the butter she is making. And she makes the best quality butter, better than all her thousands of maid servants. And when Krishna came to drink her milk, Yashodamata picked up Krishna. Actually, she did not pick up. Krishna jumped into her lap and she started feeding milk to Krishna. Then she was so absorbed in doing that service of feeding milk to Krishna. At the time, she heard the noise of Padmagandha milk spilling over in the kitchen. When she's so absorbed in this moment of service to Krishna by feeding her milk, how could she remember the sound of milk spilling over in the kitchen? She's attentive there also. She's attentive here also. She's not compromising on her service here. She's doing both. But there is a point where she has to make a decision. Should I go and save that Padmagandha milk, or should I continue feeding Krishna? She chose to save Padmagandha milk. She left Krishna aside. She ran. That's a Krishna conscious activity. Although she's doing personal service to Krishna, still there is another service that requires her immediate attention. This service can be done little later also. Therefore, she chose like that. Right? So, when Krishna says Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mamanusmara, literal meaning is you always remember me only, which is correct. But that does not mean we compromise on certain services in the name of constantly remembering Krishna. We do other services, we balance that remembrance and all. And when we are advanced enough in bhakti, when we are pure enough in bhakti, that remembrance and activity will become one. And without any compromise in our quality of service, we'll be able to constantly remember Krishna. The gopis are doing. यादो हने वहनने मथनोपलेप प्रेङ्काङ्खनार्भरुदितो क्षणमार्जनादौ गायन्ति चैनमनुरक्तधियो श्रुकण्ठ्यो धन्याव्रजस्त्रिय उरुक्रमचित्तयानः. They're constantly remembering Krishna, all the gopis of Vrindavan, but they are not compromising on the quality of their household services, including, uh, you know, cooking or cleaning or taking care of babies. They're doing everything while being conscious of Krishna. But when somebody is very advanced, then they are too much focused in remembering Krishna, they may become oblivious to external activities. That is also another possibility. We are discussing multiple possibilities from this shloka. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's absorbed in the thought of Krishna. He doesn't even realize, he's not consciously aware of what's going in his mouth when eating prasad. He's doing all his external duties as if they're happening mechanically on their own in autopilot mode. But he's observing the thought of Krishna. So all possibilities are there. So coming back, the takeaway from for us is Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mamarasmarudhyatsa means you practice remembering Krishna throughout your life without compromising on your services, then you will eventually reach Krishna. Right? Next. Now, when Krishna said, offer your mind and intelligence to me, Krishna says, integrate your emotional and rational faculties and perform bhakti. Intelligence is the rational faculty, mind is the emotional faculty. Bring both in Krishna's service. When we love Krishna more than this world, he takes us out of this world to his eternal abode. Next. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanyagaminah paramam purusham divyam yati parthanuchintayan. We need to perform abhyasa, constantly practicing to remember Krishna, to serve Krishna, to engage our body, mind, and words in Krishna's service. Then we'll be able to attain the spiritual world after giving up this body. Paramam Purusham Divyam Yati Partha Anuchintayan. They will be easily attaining the spiritual world, Krishna Loka, by constant remembrance. Now, uh, Krishna also talks about different ways of remembering him. He says, you remember me. But how to remember him? What aspect of Krishna to be remembered? Krishna gives different ways of remembering him. Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoraniyam Samanusmaredyah Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasah Parastat. Kavim, Krishna is the oldest. Oldest means he is the primeval, origin of everything. Sorry, Kavim. Puranam is the oldest. Puranam means Krishna is the oldest, and Kavim means Krishna knows everything. He knows past, present, and future. He is omniscient. Then Puranam means he is the oldest, he is the primeval, he is beginningless. You cannot trace out t equal to 0 for Krishna. Anushasitaram means he can do Anushasan, he controls everything. Anoraniyamsam, he is smaller than the smallest. Sarvasya Dhataram, he maintains everything in this universe. Achintya Rupa means he has inconceivable form. Aditya Varnam, he is effulgent like sun. Tamasaha parastat. He is transcendental to this tamas, this material darkness. So these are the different ways of remembering Krishna in this world. Kavim, Puranam, Anushasitaram. Then Krishna talks about Shatchakra Yoga at this moment. प्रयाणकाले मनसा चलेन भक्त्या युक्तो योगबलेन चैव भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्राणमावेश्य सम्यक् सतं परं पुरुषमुपैति दिव्यम्. So, if you see the flow of this chapter, in the first four shlokas, Krishna gave definitions of some terms that he introduced in the end of seventh chapter. Then he started focusing on how to remember Krishna at the time of death. Then the next four shlokas, 5, 6, 7, 8. Krishna spoke, if you remember me at the time of death, you will reach me. How to remember me at the time of death? Throughout the life, you practice remembering me. Right? Now, from 9th shloka, Krishna is saying different ways of remembering him. Then Krishna says there is another way of reaching him through Shatchakra Yoga. By Shatchakra Yoga, you raise your life hairs, and at the time of death, you will be able to absorb yourself in spiritual consciousness, and you will attain one aspect of Krishna. What is that one aspect of Krishna? Many times people end up, yogic people end up in liberation, only effulgence of the Lord. So Shatchakra Yoga means you fix your life hair between the eyebrows, bhruvor madhye, and then slowly raise your life hairs from different chakras and bring it to the bhruvor madhye, and then the soul will just depart from the head and it will attain a higher spiritual destination, generally entering the liberation, the Sayuja Mukti. But this is not meant for Kaliga people, definitely. Some people may do, but this is not Krishna's ultimate recommendation. Krishna is only speaking a possibility. Krishna is not saying you do Shatchakra Yoga. Just like in the second chapter, Krishna spoke Sakama Karma, but that's not his ultimate recommendation. After Sakama Karma, he spoke Nishkama Karma also. Here also, he is speaking about Bhakti Yoga. While doing so, he also spoke a little bit about Shatchakra Yoga, and he gave different processes that Shatchakra yogis will follow, like Brahmacharya, giving up attachment, developing knowledge, uttering syllable Omkara. So he spoke different aspects of Shatchakra Yoga. But Krishna says that there is an easy way of attaining me. You don't have to go through this difficult path of Shatchakra Yoga. There are easier ways of attaining me. In the 14th sloka, Krishna says, Ananya chetaha satatam yo mam smarati nityashah tasyaham sulabha partha nityayuktasya yoginah. Ananya chetaha satatam means Ananya cheta. Anya cheta means your consciousness diverted to something else. Ananya cheta means with absolutely no deviation in the mind. Satatam yomam smarati, one who always remembers me at all times. Nityashaha means daily. Now there is the keyword here. Satatam means at all times. Nityashaha means daily. For practitioners, daily they can allocate some time to remember Krishna and practice bhakti. And rest of the day they may do other duties, right? And eventually that Krishna Smarana will permeate into rest of the day also. Very advanced devotees will be able to remember Krishna at every moment. But sadhaka bhaktas, they have to exclusively dedicate some time to remember Krishna every day. And rest of the day will become Krishna conscious eventually, gradually. But we need to have exclusively, we need to allocate some time. Sometimes people say, why we should chant Hare Krishna 16 rounds every day, morning, 1.5, 2 hours we are spending time. Why should we do that? At any time we can do. We can do at all times. Just like Satatam, Ananya Cheta, Satatam Yomam Smarati. But are you on the level of remembering Krishna at every moment? If you are not, better dedicate some time, daily 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours or at least 1 hour or half an hour. You dedicate some time where you exclusively meditate only on Krishna and do nothing else. Then eventually you can increase that consciousness. Some people say, why are we counting? You should not count, you should only chant. Always internally we should remember Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Assuming that I can remember Krishna always throughout the day, by the end of the day, we'll remember him only 2, 3 times. But if we allocate some specific time and a count, associate a count 16 rounds every day, then at least those 2 hours you can remember nicely. Uh, it requires a lot of maturity, advancement, uh, and detachment to be able to remember Krishna throughout one's day. So for practitioners, for sadhaka bhaktas, let them allocate a specific time every day, 2 hours, 3 hours, or 4 hours. Exclusively allocate that time and do only spiritual activity. And rest of the day, whenever you can remember, you remember. You keep some specific count. It has a logic. And even great acharyas also have done chanting with count. Yes, it is a possibility, and ultimately we need to come to this level of constant remembrance of Krishna. But when we are not on the level of constant remembrance of Krishna, satatam remembrance, at least let's do nityam remembrance. Nitya means every day allocate some time to remember him. Next. Tasyaham sulabha partha. If you can do so, then I can be attained easily. Tasya aham sulabha. The word sulabha comes in Bhagavad Gita only once in this context. Nityayuktasya yoginaha, one who is regularly, daily engaged in remembering Krishna and performing bhakti yoga and remembering me, they will be easily attaining me. That's what Krishna says. Nitya saha means daily basis, regular basis. There should be consistency and regularity. So Bhakti Yoga is the easiest way to attain Krishna. All other yogas are difficult. Even the Shatchakra Yoga that Krishna spoke some time back, it's very difficult. So what brings us to the stage of Smaranam, constant Smaranam? Sravanam. When you hear about the Lord, then when you chant the names of the Lord, chant the glories of the Lord, you will come to the stage of remembering. So Sravanam and Kirtanam are the foundation for Smaranam. Then मामुपेत्य पुनर्जन्म दुःखालयमशाश्वतम् नाप्नुवन्ति महात्मानः संसिद्धिं परमां गतः. Such devotees, pure devotees, who maturely remembered Krishna at all times, who sincerely practiced bhakti throughout their lives, they did not take birth again in this world. Punarjanma. Mamupetya punarjanma means no punarjanma, no rebirth. In this world which is dukkhalayam and ashashvatam, this material world is dukkhalayam. It's an abode of miseries. And it's ashashvatam. It is temporary in nature. Napruvanti mahatmanaha samsiddhim paramam kutaha. They need not come back to this material world again. What's the problem with the material world? Abrahma bhuvana lokaha punaravartinorjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanma na vidyate. Brahma Bhuvanaloka, right from the topmost planet of Brahmaloka to Patal Loka or whichever lower planets, right from Ant to Brahma, there is rebirth, possibility of rebirth. Punar Avartin Arjuna, birth, death, disease, old age are there everywhere in the entire material world from top to bottom. But one who reaches Krishna does not have rebirth. Only in the spiritual world, birth and death doesn't exist. In the material world, everywhere, from the lowest planet to the highest planet of Brahmaloka, rebirth or birth and death exist. Birth, death, old age, disease exist. So, better go to the spiritual world by practicing bhakti. Now, at this moment, Krishna gives the difference between the spiritual world and material world. He gives some details about material creation and the spiritual world. I will summarize these few shlokas here from the 17th sloka. Very simple. During one day of Brahma, which is also called one kalpa, there are 1000 Divya Yugas. A Divya Yuga means a combination of Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. All four yugas put together is called Divya Yuga. Sometimes it is also called Chatur Yuga. There are such 1000 such Chatur Yugas in one day of Brahma. And that one day of Brahma is generally called Kalpa. And with this calculation, Brahma lives for 100 years. His each year has 360 days. And his each day has 1000 Yuga cycles. Clear? And at the end of the day of Brahma, there's a partial annihilation. Just like somebody goes to the office in the morning He opens his cabin, his drawers, he switches on his system laptop, and he starts working. He switches on lights and fans and AC, whatever. At the end of the day, he will wind up all of them. All lights off, fans off, and laptop is in hibernate mode or shut down, and he will lock the doors and he will go back. Similarly, in the beginning of the day of Brahma, all the planetary systems are created, all the living entities are created. But at the end of day of Brahma, there is an annihilation of this universe, and all the planetary systems are withdrawn into Garbhodakasaya Vishnu's body. Of course, top three will remain, top four will remain. But overall, during the night of Brahma, the uh, creation doesn't function. So during night time, there is rest mode, hibernate mode. And again, the next day of Brahma, creation will begin. So there is a partial annihilation at the end of every day of Brahma, and there is a complete annihilation, complete pralaya at the end of life of Brahma. Brahma's life is 100 years, right? At the end of life of Brahma, there is complete annihilation of the entire universe, where the universe is withdrawn into Mahavishnu's body. We have seen yesterday or day before yesterday, Mahavishnu is the origin of all the universes. He lies on the Karana ocean, and when he breathes out, millions of universes come out of his body. And he enters into every universe as Garbhodakasaya Vishnu. And from the navel of Garbhodakasaya Vishnu, Brahma takes birth. And then creation begins. At the end of every day of Brahma, the planetary systems, the 14 planetary systems in this universe, they go into hibernate mode. They are withdrawn into Garbhodakasaya Vishnu's body. And at the end of life of Brahma, entire Brahmanda, entire universe is withdrawn into Mahavishnu's body. Right? Thus, the material world has a manifest state and an unmanifest state. Bhutva bhutva praliyate means the material world is created and destroyed, created and destroyed. It's created again and again. Similarly, the jivas within the material world also, they take forms in different species, and uh, they lose their forms again. They also go into a hibernate mode till they are liberated. When they're liberated, fine, they can go to the spiritual world. But these are like two pralayas. There are four pralayas, but we'll discuss them later. So we discuss two pralayas. One is one is Naimitika pralaya that happens at the end of day of Brahma. Second is Prakritika pralaya. Prakritika pralaya that happens at the end of life of Brahma. Now there's a difference between the spiritual world and material world. We have seen creation is happening repeatedly in the material world. Material world is sometimes manifest, sometimes not manifest. When Mahavishnu breathes out, all the material universes will manifest. When he breathes in, all the material universes will be destroyed. And within the universe, at the beginning of day of Brahma, all the planets and species are created. At the end of the day of Brahma, they go into hibernate mode. Thus, material world is created and destroyed, created and destroyed. But the spiritual world is not like that. Spiritual world is never created or destroyed. It is constantly existing. It's a constant reality. Therefore, Krishna says in the next shloka, 21st shloka, Avyaktokshara ityuktah tamahu paramam gatim yam prapya narivartante tadhama paramam mama. Avyakta. This spiritual world is avyakta, means not manifest to the material senses. You cannot see it with the material vision. Akshara, there is no reduction, there is no diminution. Tamahu paramam gatim. Our paramagati, supreme goal, is that eternal spiritual world, which is not manifest to material eyes. You perform bhakti, you remember Krishna, and you enter the spiritual world, which is avyakta and akshara, which is never subjected to any deterioration or material vision. Yam prapya nivartante tadhama paramam mama. Yam prapya means you attain that spiritual world, na nivartante, you don't have to come back to this material world. For example, in the material world, somebody does pious activities. They go from the earth to heaven. Once the pious credits are exhausted, they'll come back to the material world. They will come back to the earthly planet. So, wherever you go in this material world, whichever planet you attain, including Brahma's planet, there is rebirth. There is a possibility of falling down. There is a possibility of diminution of our spiritual credits. But when we go to the spiritual world, there is no such possibility. Therefore, we have to perform bhakti and enter the spiritual world. Next, at this stage, Krishna says, Purushaha saparaha partha bhaktya labhyasvananyaya yasyantastani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. Bhaktya labhyastu ananyaya. Only by ananya bhakti you can attain the Supreme Purusha, Krishna, in the spiritual world. We can attain the eternal abode of Krishna only through ananya bhakti, unalloyed, unmotivated, uninterrupted bhakti. Now, Krishna spoke a lot about how to attain spiritual world after death. And if you are not qualified to attain spiritual world, if you have not purified yourself by remembering Krishna or worshipping him, performing bhakti throughout the life, then one will have to come back to this material world, take rebirth in this material world. But there are also certain considerations of timing of death. Depending on what time you die, also there is some kind of destinations discussed. So, Krishna says that there are two paths, path of light and path of darkness. Path of light is at an auspicious moment by the influence of sun god or fire god during the daytime, during the Sukla Paksha, means the fortnight of waxing moon, and during Uttarayana. Uttarayana means when the 6 months of time in a year when sun travels to the north, right? So during Uttarayana, during Shukla Paksha, during the daytime, by the influence of sun and moon, sun or fire, at an auspicious moment, if somebody gives up the body, then they will attain liberation, Brahmajyoti. But there's a path of darkness. What I spoke now is path of light, but there's a path of darkness also. What is that? During the night time, by the influence of smoke, during Krishna Paksha, the fortnight of waxing moon, during Dakshinayana, during those 6 months when the sun travels towards the south. So at this time, if somebody dies, then they will have to take birth again. So path of light is you give up your body during Uttarayana and Sukla Paksha, you will attain Brahmajyoti or liberation. And path of darkness is somebody dies during the night time and Krishna Paksha and Dakshinayana, they will go to they may go to heaven, but they will take birth again. This is path of return, that is path of no return. But what about devotees who sincerely practice bhakti and uh, and die in Dakshinayana? uh, Krishna clearly says in the 27th chapter, 27th sloka of this chapter, devotees know these two paths, path of light, path of darkness, path of return, path of no return. They know. But they're always fixed in devotion to Krishna. They are never bewildered. They will definitely attain Krishna Loka irrespective of the time or date or paksha or day in a week. They will reach Krishna because they remember Krishna. Once you remember Krishna at the time of death, whether you die in the night time or daytime, Sukla Paksha or Krishna Paksha, Uttarayana or Dakshinayan, Sunday or Monday, you will attain Krishna. So all this external stuff is not applicable to sincere devotees who are practicing pure bhakti yoga. Now, in the 28th shloka, last shloka of this chapter, Krishna says about the glory of bhakti yoga. Vedeshu yagneshu tapassu chaiva dhaneshu yat punya phala pratishtam atyeti tatsarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. Vedeshu means by Vedic study. Yagneshu by performing sacrifices. Tapassu by doing austerities. Daneshu by giving charity. Yet punya phala pratishtam, whatever pious credits you may attain. Atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva, you will attain much more credits by practicing bhakti yoga than what all these processes can give you. So what Vedic study gives you, what charity gives you, what mm, austerities give you, bhakti will give you, but bhakti will give you much more than what other processes can give. That is the glory of bhakti yoga. So with this, Krishna concludes this chapter. In this chapter, we have seen how to attain Krishna. Whether you understood the full analysis of this chapter or not, the essence of this chapter is try to always remember Krishna throughout the life. At the end of life, we will be able to remember Krishna sincerely. Then we'll go back to Godhead. And that remembrance of Krishna at the time of death is possible by practicing to remember Krishna, by doing Sravanam and Kirtanam throughout one's life, by living a principle centered, moral centered, virtuous spiritual life. mm, by worshipping the Lord, by chanting the holy names of the Lord, we'll come to the stage of remembering Krishna throughout life at the time of death, and we will reach Krishna. And tomorrow, Krishna will give more confidential knowledge, most confidential knowledge. That is ninth chapter. We'll discuss that tomorrow. Thank you very much. ग्रंथराज भगवद गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.